Welcome to KIMEcast, where we break through and cut the BS in sports medicine, rehabilitation, and sports performance, and talk about how things really work. All right, welcome to KIMEcast. I'm Tony Mikla with Russ Dunning, and here with Rhoda Mason. Rhoda, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Rhoda's a really competitive Spartan athlete, so we wanted to bring her on and share some of her story and her process. She's gone through quite a process as well in her own rehabilitation and looking to get back into competing at a high level. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ranked as high as top 10 in California in her age group, which is awesome.
Thank you.
And then you have a gym as well that you do some training and actually train other Spartan athletes as well in the region, yeah?
I do, yes. Distinct Physique Fitness in Sacramento.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good to have you.
Thanks.
So we're going to have a glass of wine tonight. We're upping the scale again. We've done this a few times on the podcast. We've gone from beer to wine, and it's always an elite guest when this happens. So.
Super elite. Now we got chilled Chardonnay from Chalk Hill, Sonoma Coast, 2018. This is bringing out the big guns for Miss Rhoda.
Thank you.
Yeah. So cool. So you came. You've come into some tough go with this rehab process, or like this unfortunate injury that's kind of slowed down your training a little bit. So, and then having a hip replacement actually in November.
Yes.
And then this is super exciting because we have so many questions that come in all the time regarding joint replacement, whether it be knee replacement or hip replacement, and there's so much question on what can I really get back to, and how does it feel, and what's going on, and it's an interesting space because you're obviously a little younger than the normal person getting a hip replacement, right?
I've been told that a million times.
Right?
Yes. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Come back in 20 years. I'm like, no, I'm not coming back in 20 years.
Because and that's exactly the question I get asked is like, should I wait or should I do it now? And it's obviously a quality of life issue. And can you get to a high quality of life now and live those years in an enjoyable fashion, or do you just suffer and end up bent over for 20 years? So I think it's a phenomenal choice, but a big one. But one interesting thing about it is that there's not a lot of resources for people out there. There's not like a normative data. Like if you were 80 and get hip replacement, it's like, yeah, the outcome's great, no brainer, do it for sure, you know?
Yeah.
But when you're under 60 in your 50s or so and you're getting it, it's like, what should I expect is obviously a question we face a lot. So I appreciate you coming on and maybe sharing a little bit of what you've experienced, because it'll be helpful for the audience who is unfamiliar. So.
Yeah. Well, I had all the same questions coming into Russ. I got told I'll never be able to run again. No jumping. I won't be able to do Spartan races, and that terrified me. All the old research says, you're going to be laid up for 6 months and with a walker, and I'm like, no, that can't be me. I got too much going on, So I was really fearful. I was in a ton of pain. I was affecting every part of my life. He saw me at my worst. I came in just scared, and I'm like, I don't know what to do because I can't keep doing this, but at the same time, everyone's telling me just come back when you're 65, take all these drugs in the meantime, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And so he actually gave me a ton of information and helped me look in other areas to do my own research, which gave me hope. And then once that clicked, it was a whole nother ball game. Yeah. I went in, he helped me find a Sutter surgeon, and I went in demanding a surgery date, and no more BS from these doctors. It's like, I'm not leaving until I get that date, and I had it within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It is the biggest difference between performance medicine and then we got to save your life medicine. And I think medically, the United States, we're really caught, and you were kind of pushing for, I want to perform better in my life medicine. And they were saying, no, you're not standard by our books. We need you at this certain age. And so you were kind of in that sweet spot. And I'm so happy that you pushed the way you did. And you found a good doc that saw you for you and saw like, yeah, I can see how you're not living life really at all successfully. It was ripping apart your back. And if you didn't do that, you were probably going to have a more severe injury in your back as well as continued pain in your hip. So I'm so glad that you kind of pushed the way you did. And now look at you. It's been
almost 7 months.
7 months? Mm-hmm. What can you do with your new hip? 7 months post-op total replacement. What are you able to do?
I gotta tell you, that walker only lasted 3 days. That was it. I was done. Yeah. I walked in 2 weeks post-op, and the doctor, they're like, "Where's your walker?" I'm like, "In the garage behind something. I don't know."
I burned that sucker.
They're like, we just undid your whole leg and put it back on, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. He goes, you're walking like a normal person. I said, absolutely. This is what I'm going to do from here on out, you know. I am running a little bit. I'm doing some trail running. Everything but box jumps, really. I'm squatting, I'm pressing, I'm doing everything, you know.
You showed me a squat depth that was perfect, and you haven't been able to do that in how long?
Oh my gosh, probably 5 years. Yeah,
That's super cool.
it feels super cool.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the technology of this is how it's evolved, and there's obviously some risk still. So if you're listening, it's not like, oh, just it's risk-free and everybody do it. There's the right person and the right choice, and there's considerations on impact, like you said, you know, being cautious with running, being cautious with jumping and such. But at the end of the day, like if it gives you more life and more freedom and it can allow you to get back to the things you love, like that mental health and the other aspects of physical health, like to keep your heart healthy, to keep your lungs healthy, you know, all of those things that we forget about, or just be like, well, it's not the best choice, but we forget about how all those things wear down the body and you end up in a much worse state. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's so cool. And it doesn't hurt you very much anymore, no pain and such, or?
Not like that, no. I have a little bit of the back pain still, which we're working through. You know, the hip gets tight. I have to do a lot more stretching than before and, you know, do all of my prehab and all that good stuff, which is great. But yeah, a little bit with the back, but nothing major, nothing like before. Like I couldn't even move. I couldn't sit for too long. I couldn't stand. Couldn't hold anything. I mean, it was affecting my whole life.
Yeah.
How much time did you spend stretching in the beginning?
Oh gosh, hours.
Details, new details, because you have such a successful rehab. I want every listener to know how much work you put in.
On my third day, I was on the floor, and the home nurse came in, and she saw my mat on the floor, and she goes, "You're getting on the ground?" I said, "Well, I know how to do a single RDL and get down there." And she goes, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be." And she literally put me back in bed and told me to take my meds. And I'm like, the minute she left, I was back on the floor. And I would spend probably a good hour doing my walking, you know, doing my forward walking, my backward walking to get the leg moving again. My stretches, gosh, I was 2 to 3 hours a day probably, because I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't drive. Until my daughter almost killed me, and I was like, I'm driving. One and done.
That's a commitment. 2 or 3 hours a day. That's legit right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How quickly were you back to teaching classes?
The next week. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I only had 1 week out of my gym and 2 weeks out of the gym, my actual workouts. I was working back out in 2 weeks.
And that helped you, right?
It
Just to like start, like, you know, challenging your movement in small ways. You know, you
Very
kind of
small.
you listened to me with the progression,
Yes.
but you really kind of got after it in a really consistent way.
Yeah. Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
So what's the future look like? What's the next steps for you? What do you see the rest of the year? And are we looking at getting back into doing some Spartan racing, or where are we at with that?
That is the goal, but not this year. This year is I'm focused on my athletes. So
Okay.
with this new challenge coming up, I decided to give myself that time, which is very hard to do because I'm so impatient. I want to push, but I also don't want to go backwards, right? And so being really cognizant of that. So focus on them while I'm still doing my training and my rehab, and then maybe next year race when things are also more open up too. So it's kind of iffy right now. So I don't want to really commit and then work towards it and then it gets shut down. So just change of focus for
Well,
now.
but you're changing the region. So tell us about the Throwdown Challenge.
Oh, Throwdown Challenge is like nothing else out there. So I get myself in trouble. I kind of talk a lot of crap to other people. My people are better than yours. And well, 6 other coaches say otherwise. So I just had an idea of, you know, something to create for our athletes to work towards again and motivate, because a lot of them didn't have a gym to work out at. Races were being canceled, and you got these top athletes with nothing to do, no motivation. And it's like, okay, well, let's give them something. And I started talking to a few people, and everyone's thought it was a great idea. So I was like, well, let me talk to some coaches I know. Everyone was in, and this thing just kind of blew up. So we started talking about it in February, and go time's like tomorrow. So
Yes.
Each coach has their own event. So we have a running and endurance coach. We have an MMA coach. strength and conditioning coach, Spartan. So the athletes show up and they have no idea what's going to get thrown down on them.
Oh.
So they got to do whatever that coach says in their style. So, and it's back to back to back. It's Friday night, 2 events Saturday, 2 events Sunday, and final events next Saturday. So.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
We got points, we got awards, we got competition.
Got sponsors.
Love it.
Yeah.
You got a trophy.
Some big, yeah.
Tell me about the trophy.
It's this big old kettlebell, custom-made kettlebell. So my logo is the claws through it.
Yeah, on the bell. Sweet.
It's a custom-made one with the claws in it, and custom-made medals from a Spartan friend who does that. So we've been able to use all local businesses for even the t-shirts, sponsors, and all of that. So one team wins. We have 17 teams. And believe me, they're getting showered with a ton of gifts, cash,
That's cool.
Everything. Yeah. So.
Is the kettlebell, did you choose to use like the Beast, like 100 pounds, or are you using something lighter, or are you just hollow?
Created my own. It's completely out of epoxy. It's like this big around.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally unique.
Awesome. Very good. Good stuff. Well, excited to be part of that and help out with it. It's so cool that you're doing it. I think that's pretty neat. I think that's a huge challenge for people too, is to not really know what the competition is as they show up for it. You know, it's similar to some of these other events we see, like in your world of the obstacle races, or maybe sometimes you see that in the CrossFit Games where it's this randomness to it. So it's pretty neat. It's a fun thing to add.
Something different, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'd be kind of wild if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to do a strong lift today, or if I'm going to climb over a wall, or if I'm going to have to run a sprint.
They have no clue. We've given them hints. So we've given each of our events a name. So like tomorrow is Embrace the Suck.
It sounds like a cardio one.
It is. It is. They're outside at night on a trail in Auburn. That's what they know. They know to show up with a headlamp. That's about it.
That's awesome.
And then the max or death lift is Saturday, followed by Easy Day. And then
is that Coach Doug's?
Yeah.
The easy days. Is it like it's supposed to be an MMA workout? This is the easy MMA workout that he uses for his pro UFC fighters.
And he says if you don't make it past the first minute, you don't get any points. So you know it's not easy.
Yeah, that's a low bar. Yeah. That's intense.
It will be, but I think they're ready for it. So they're excited. You know, they've been training hard. We've created teams and just a ton of social media. So.
Super fun.
Really cool. Yeah.
So what's your training like with your clients that are more in the obstacle course racing? How do you approach that in your environment? Is your gym set up in such a way where they can do some of that there, or they just work on the techniques there, or they work on their body there? How does that go?
All of it. Russ just came and saw the gym on Monday, so I have most of the obstacles there. This is my friend over here. She's helped me build most of them.
Awesome.
So we have the rings, the spear throw, the 4 to 8 foot wall, sandbags, walls, everything.
Cool.
So, but we do everything. So we do strength and conditioning a lot of the time. So if we're not gearing up for a race specifically, we're going endurance, we're going strength. And once we get closer to a race, it's like, okay, let's throw in those obstacles and get it down. So, upper body is harder for most of the women, so we focus on that a lot, be able to lift their own body weight.
Sure.
Pull-ups, rings, monkey bars, all that kind of stuff.
What's your pull-up record? Watch this.
When I could do it a lot, you mean at my best, I could get 3 sets of 12, easy. Not today. Let me say that. Not today.
Oh, we'll get there.
I'm getting back.
That's part of the progression.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You've had some really fun stories of your more memorable Spartan races. Tell me about the one that was, I think it was the ice cold one. What was the?
Oh, like Tahoe?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That was 2017, the Beast. So this was the old OCR World Championships, and it's supposed to be 12 miles. 2 days before the race, they're like, oh, it's going to be 16 and a half. And we're like, what?
I've heard that about that. They just throw it out there.
I've never ran 16 or even 12 miles in my life.
Uphill, right?
All uphill. It was like a 2,500 elevation gain, something like that. And at noon, it's freezing. We started, I think, at 10. We didn't end until 8:30 at night. You couldn't feel your toes, your hands, your nothing. So trying to grip things and pull across these monkey bars was horrible. The water was like 40 degrees, and you had to swim around the buoys. And so you could just strip down and go, or you could burpee out, which was 90 burpees. And I'm like, oh, heck no, I am not doing that. I'm swimming. But you pay for it because then the wind comes.
Yeah, then you're cold at night, yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
Is that the water you're swimming in is not Lake Tahoe, right? Isn't it a lake up higher?
It is up near High Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
little man-made one that they have up there.
Yeah, I've heard that's brutal.
It
It's
is.
so cold coming down.
How long did that take you?
Oh, that year it was 8.5 hours.
Oh,
Because we didn't know what the hell we were getting into. The following year, we shaved off 2.5 hours.
We'll do some tweaks.
Yeah.
Minor programming
Learned,
changes.
learned about what to prepare for, what to wear. Yeah, first year going in, we didn't have a clue. It was awful, but we did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
And that's the joy of those things, is to challenge yourself, and then to win like that is awesome. To finish is so cool.
Oh, we didn't win. We were way near the end. It wasn't until the following year I started racing competitive, and so I think that and a couple of the other races, I was like, okay, forget this open category stuff. I'm going competitive, and I really figured out what the heck I was doing.
That's a great perspective. I can go do the most miserable thing I've ever done. This is so great. I want to compete now and do it professionally.
Yes.
That's, makes
exactly what
makes
happened.
complete sense.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. And I doubled my races that next year. So instead of 3, I did 8. So
Awesome.
Wow.
And so you're traveling a bit for this, then outside the region, I'm sure, and find some. What are some other good ones you've been to?
Monterey is the most beautiful scenery. I love that. It's really hard though because it's single track trail, and so it's like once you're on that cliff, you can't pass anyone, right? So in the open category, you're stuck behind whoever you're stuck behind. And I'm like, nope, okay, competitive, you're usually on the course by yourself, so it's a lot easier. Big Bear was another tough one, so that was in my competitive year, and so it's almost double the elevation and the heat, and I ended up having a heat stroke. I was miserable. I could barely take 5 steps in front of me without having to stop. It was the worst thing ever. And so everyone called it the soul crusher. But again, you get stronger from it and learn and go to the next one. So
Yeah, it's usually not that hot down there, so it was just odd weekend, huh?
it was in May.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you start above the clouds, like you're driving up to this goal line and you're above the clouds. So that's the elevation you're starting at.
Yeah.
And I get elevation sickness. I am sicker than a dog the whole time.
Oh, jeez.
And this is your 12-miler. So, yeah, it was not fun.
Sounds great. Yeah.
It was. I did.
Let's sign
I
up
did
for it,
every
yeah.
obstacle though. Like even with all that, I completed every obstacle of that race.
What are the harder obstacles?
The twister. So you have the handles that twist as you
Oh,
go
yeah.
down. That's one of the harder ones. And then they have the multi-rig. So it's monkey bars to a straight bar to ropes, and you have to just one hand. Or two
Ropes are
hands.
at the end. Once your
Ropes
like
are
grip
at the
is just
end.
like fried.
Yes, and you got to ring that stupid bell. Yes, I did it though.
That's fantastic.
That's
the
where that
grip
form
strength
strength comes in.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. And that's the big thing, especially like you said, for females, like their upper body strength, to be able to hang for that's amazing. Because if they don't get to the bell, then the penalty is the
30
burpees.
burpees.
Yeah, right.
Everything's a 30 burpee.
Yeah, you did all half of it, and then you failed, then you gotta go to 30 burpees and get destroyed. Yeah.
And then they throw in the double, right? So they'll have the double multi-rig, and if you fall halfway, you still got to do 60 burpees. If you go halfway, it's only 30 burpees. That's like, oh, whatever.
That's legitimate for sure. No, it's super cool. I've not been able to do an obstacle race, but I love the idea of it. I think it seems so cool. I love that you've brought some training to the community on it. There's not too many places to do something like that.
Yeah.
I was in Denver, Colorado. There's a gym out there that I was able to speak at and teach at, and they have some cool obstacles that they've built into it as well, where they do some training similar. It's a neat. It's just a neat concept. It's a great vibe in the gym too. Great energy.
It is. Yeah.
Because I think it's how we are as humans. It's like a more natural competition where you're really trying to work with the earth. Climb over something, crawl under something, hang from something. A lot of things that we don't do that we did as kids, and then as adults it all goes away. And there's a lot of stuff on hanging and grip strength and things that the average population doesn't touch anymore.
Exactly.
And there's quite a bit of stuff out there that's one of the biggest things that we lose is the ability to get on the ground and crawl and the ability to hang and do like monkey bars. And those are things that just people don't do anymore in America unless you're doing an obstacle course training, right? Or you're Ninja Warrior or something like that. I guess which is obstacle course as well. So, but those are movement patterns that we find ourselves having to retrain on people all the time because it's not done. So it's super cool to have the opportunity for people to actually go do that in an environment, whether it be that through training or through a competition school.
We have a lot.
And they have a ton of fun. I mean, you have
gosh,
spears that you throw into wood.
Hay bales.
Sure.
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
But right now everyone's going out drinking and throwing axes. Like, why don't you train with Rhoda and throw a spear?
True.
Absolutely.
Forget the axes.
Yeah, you can have a little heat stroke, you can have a little elevation sickness, and you throw a spear. It sounds
And
amazing.
you pay for it.
Yeah, this is
Pay money,
fantastic.
hundreds of dollars for this.
Yeah. 8 hours. No problem.
Right? No worries. Food deprived, water deprived. It's all fun.
You get a cool T-shirt though.
You get a T-shirt and a medal.
yeah.
It's all about the medal.
Oh, that's cute. That's nice. You wear it with pride, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're all up in my studio.
Yeah,
A little bit bloodstained, I'm sure.
The coolest thing is teaching the kids because they have no fear. So I have a kids team. It started with my granddaughter. I've taught her rings from when she was 6 months old in my garage. And that girl can hang with one arm like it's no tomorrow. So she's 9. They've been racing for 2 years. We had a little group and they are just the funnest. I mean, they just head first into those mud pits and go for it, So that's the coolest thing to watch. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, since we've lost PE, I'm not sure where PE has gone recently, but
It's-
you're bringing it back. You're bringing it back, kind of real primal patterns,
Every
and making it real.
Yeah. Yeah, I was able to go down years ago. I was down in San Diego, and there's a group called Egosky, and Egosky does, Pete Egosky's a trainer and runs a really cool program. And at their facility, they do a lot of movement. It's all movement training and mobility work. And I was down there with some really elite athletes. John Lynch was there, Junior Seau, Luke Walton, and we were working out together in a group. And it was awesome. Part of the training program was not only really there was no weights in the gym. It was just movement patterns. It was like, you could think of it as like yoga, but it was much more intense holds and longer holds and like body positioning and different things, which was fantastic. But then outside, there's just all kinds of logs. So logs that were 4 feet high and 2 feet high, and logs on the ground, and you had to do stuff. You pick it up and carry it, jump over it, climb under it, climb over it, crawl, and do all these different things in an obstacle course fashion. And this was before Spartan and everything kind of has come out as a racing option. So I've always thought that type of training was super natural or like organic in a way, where it's like jumping over a log, put your hands on a log, get yourself over it, and actually using natural patterns to train. And
That's what I love.
it's authentic, yeah.
Just bring them outside and go.
Yeah, and that's what it should be, and to take that and, in a gym environment, we try to replicate that as best we can in so many ways, but there's something about just having it be natural and being, real life challenge like that, that's of huge value. So I'm a big fan of encouraging people to do that stuff. And I think what's cool about obstacle course racing is you could do it at really any pace. It's really not about winning, it's about finishing.
It is.
Or just competing for that matter, and pushing your body to some different limits. Obviously some temperature challenges and some elevation challenges.
Yes.
But there's all kinds of levels where it's really, again, you can go at any time, like you yourself. Took 2.5 hours longer one time and then did it again, and that's a huge difference,
Oh gosh, I was so happy.
Yeah.
I spent longer in the water that year though. That was awful, but yeah, it was good to be done earlier.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And then that sense of pride and confidence that the people build in the fact that, I was able to do this. I did the whole obstacle. I didn't have to do the burpee as a penalty. I just think it's such a cool thing. I'm glad that those exist and encourage folks to be a part of it. And then if you don't have the shoulder mobility or strength to do the overhead stuff, then just skip it and do the burpees. That's fine. It's part of it's okay.
And that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, and then build it up, but work on building it up, because I think it's a big health benefit for them to be able to do that stuff, and and it leads to long-term function.
Now, once the Spartan races kind of come back, you take your teams to this, right? You kind of help all your, first timers, newbies, kind of get in. That must be really cool to see.
It is. I race with them and help them along the way. So in the open, you can help people. In the competitive, you can't. You have to do it all yourself. You have to carry all your stuff. There's no help. But in the open, we'll do it as a team, and so we can lift each other over the walls or help them. You can't really help them with the rings, but on certain things, you can. Hang on to them and get them through it or whatever. There's a dunk wall. You got to go under the water completely. And I mean, there's people that are fearful of getting under there.
Sure.
And it's like, it took us to get one girl under 10 minutes. she couldn't do it. So it was just a mental block for her, and she finally did it.
Wow.
But it wasn't about a time thing. It was finishing and getting past those fears. And that's huge.
Yeah.
She is 62 years old and can climb a rope and do everything, and can now go under a dunk wall.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. And then her confidence in life is just
Huge.
raised for it, right? Just quality of life, confidence in life. I think it's awesome. It's cool thing.
That's Tracy, by the way.
As you could tell, I was thinking, like, I think I know that person.
You do.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love it when, one of Rhoda's trainees, she sent her to me after a severe injury. And I love how this woman would say, I got to get my hand in shape because I got to go do those rings. I'm like, what rings are you talking about? She goes, well, I got to get across. I'm like, oh, you race with Rhoda? She goes, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm racing this summer. And meanwhile, her work on her incision site, she just broke her hand, and the whole thing's kind of like locked up. So it was an injury outside of training. But it was tremendous to see this woman just like, I'm going to conquer this because I got Rhoda on my side. So this is what we're going to do. Like, all right. I love that motivation. and now she's doing the monkey bars all the way across.
She is. Yep.
That's so cool.
She comes in every day and practices.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, thanks, Rhoda. Thanks for sharing your story and what you're doing for the community. I think this Throwdown idea is phenomenal. So if you guys get a chance to come out and support in any way you can, it's great to see some of these local athletes do it and give them something to do as this during this hopefully the end stages of this COVID period where there's not so many races for them to compete in. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
And keep it up with the gym.
Yes.
We got to come down there and check it out. We should do like a team building thing down there and put everybody to put the team through a workout.
I do. I was so when you showed it to me, I'm like, if this wasn't a professional environment, I would have checked it. But I know you offered. I'm like, I can't do it right now.
I just made some brand new ones, so got your name on
I want to throw a spear. Forget hexes. We're throwing spears at Rhoda's.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Good luck with the rest of your rehab process and
Thank
getting
you.
back out there. We'll follow you. So.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, very much so. You guys are watching KIMEcast. This was KIMEcast, and we are the KIME Human Performance Institute. Thank you very much for listening. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. Please hop on our social media. It's at KIMEHPI and engage with us there. If you'd like us to feature a topic or answer any questions live on the show, post your comments there. You can also check us out on our website at KIMEperformance.com, and there you can see links to content that we've posted throughout our podcast for more information.